Hi guys, so I thought it was time for another giallo and I came across this film on streaming. I was attracted to it for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I could tell from the little preview window that this was a remastered film. It was in nice, clear HD, and I thought, well, they're not going to remaster a film from 50 years ago unless it's pretty well regarded, right? Maybe a false logic, but that's what went through my head. And the other reason is that this has got a really snazzy title, The House with the Laughing Windows. It's along the same lines as other classic, long Italian titles from the 70s, things like the Dragon with the Tongue of Fire or The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. They should do more titles like this these days. Often these sorts of titles have nothing to do with the actual plot, but they just sound really cool. Although I certainly didn't actually expect to see any laughing windows in this film. The idea of actual windows coming to life and having a good chuckle at the characters maybe didn't seem likely, but actually there kind of are laughing windows in this film in a way, and when you get to that scene, it's actually pretty creepy. So hopefully if you haven't seen this, I've already given you one good reason to look forward to it. So this was directed by a guy I'd never heard of previously. His name is Pupi Avati. He had a pretty long career, as far as I can tell, doing mostly Italian films, although according to his bio, he's mostly only known among horror fans for two particular movies, this one and another giallo called Zidar from 1983, if I'm pronouncing that right. And based on the strength of the film I'm reviewing today, I would be quite happy to check out Zidar at some point. The plot for this involves a guy hired to go to this small village in northern Italy, and he has been tasked to restore a painting. It's a really large painting on the back wall of this church. Maybe you'd call it a mural or a fresno. I'm just going to call it a giant picture for ease of reference. But once this guy gets in the church, he realises that this particular painting is of this guy being stabbed to death. It sort of makes him do a little bit of a double take, but ever the professional, he gets on with it anyway. But it turns out that this painting was done by a guy called Lentini, something like that. He was quite well known in the surrounding area before his death for doing macabre paintings. There are other bits of evidence of his art scattered around the village in various forms, but he seemed to like to paint people either dying or suffering. He was a bit of an Italian H.R. Geiger, if you will. You just look at his stuff and you think, ugh. So instantly you'll think maybe he could be the killer who suddenly pops up and starts bumping people off. Maybe he's still alive, or maybe it's one of his two sisters who apparently used to help him with his murders / paintings that he used to do. Can I just say, by the way, that restoring paintings is a really dangerous occupation and you really shouldn't go into it. There's clear evidence of that in this movie, and also in a film called The Well, which I reviewed about a year ago. That girl from Terrifier was in it. She played this woman who went to an Italian town and she was restoring a painting in a building, and she got into a whole world of hurt as well. And who can forget Ghostbusters 2, Zigo the Carpathian, that painting. The guy who was touching up that thing, he was basically mind-controlled by Zigo himself. So nothing good ever comes from restoring paintings. You're much better off doing something else, like being a plumber or something like that. Just let paintings die. Just let them take their natural course. Don't touch them up. I suppose if somebody asked you to touch up a giant picture of, like, a dandelion, maybe that would be fine. But if it's a picture of somebody suffering in great pain and they're naked and there's blood on them, no. Or if it's like a picture of a medieval warlord staring at you with a mace in his hand and there's like nails in the end of it, yeah, just keep your paints in your bag and tell the person who hired you the gig is off. This film is a fairly slow affair. I think it runs to 1 hour and 50 in total. And I can tell you now, there's only one kill in the first hour and 20. It does take quite a long time to get to where it's going, although at least we get a lot of nice looking Italian scenery to look at. Legnani's house, when we see it, that's his name, not Lentini. That's genuinely scary. I really liked the location that they used for that guy's house, now dilapidated and abandoned. But my favourite scene in the movie is when our protagonist walks into this random dark room at one point and finds this old tape recorder. And when he presses play, it's like an audio recording of Legnani muttering to himself at the time he was doing one of his paintings. Not only does he have a very scary voice, but what he's saying doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and it just made the hairs stand up on my arms. Brought back memories for me of that killer in Black Christmas when he's talking all that gibberish over the phone. But there is one really bad scene in the movie as well, just to counterbalance that. So there's a moment where our main guy finds this dead body and he goes and tells the police, and then he brings the police back to the crime scene, but we see him and the police going up the stairs and taking their time getting back to where the body is. So I'm just thinking during this, okay, they're going to get there and the body's going to be missing, guaranteed. And sure enough, the body was missing, and our main guy is like, but I swear it was right there. And the police are like, are you sure you haven't been on the sauce today, sir? They're not British bobbies, I'm just translating from the Italian, but I've seen this trope so many times at this point that I would have been more surprised if the body had still been there. There are some quirky residents in the village for us to keep track of. There's this one woman who seems very hot at first, until the moment she opens her fridge door to reveal a bunch of snails. There's no actual food in there. There's no milk, cheese or butter or anything like that. Just snails. Some of them look dead. Some of them are clearly still crawling around, and it's like, ugh. There's a guy who works in the local church. He's like the assistant to the priest, and we find out that he's put a rat in a coffin so that during the funeral service that happens, we can hear this rat chewing on a dead body from inside the coffin while the service is happening, and this guy's just sat to one side like this guy, I'm going to give you a minor spoiler here and tell you that he is not the killer, but I found him freakier in this movie than the actual killer. So this guy who's always chuckling, he's always got this god-awful smirk on his face, like, ooh. He tries to rape a woman at one point, and he also does this rat in the coffin thing, and I think years from now I'm going to look back on this movie and I'm going to remember this character and how freaky he was way more than I'm going to remember the actual person who is discovered to be the murderer, kind of a thing. There's romance in the film between the two leads, but it felt kind of flat for me. I wasn't massively into either of the two main characters. It's one of those romances where they meet in one scene and then by their third scene together they're already going to bed to some cheesy music, but it didn't exactly make me go, oh. Despite my persistent cynicism, I did have a mostly enjoyable experience with this film. There's at least one terrifying scene in it and a number of others that you would consider to be creepy at the very least. There's also one outstanding shot in the film from a directorial standpoint. When our main character is stood in a kitchen at night, he hears this strange noise and the camera just pans out from him. We're watching him as the camera's moving away, but the camera's backing into a totally dark room. So we just see this ever-expanding slit of light leading to where the main character is in the kitchen. It's not easy to describe, but honestly, it looks super cool, and it's a moment that I remembered. The ending to the film is really good. It feels very original. I was sort of impressed with it, and I found the moment where the killer is on screen for the first time to be highly effective. The start to this film is really good as well, so it's almost like a set of spaghetti western type visuals that you get, and over the top of them this guy screaming out because presumably that he's being stabbed, but we just hear this scream like on repeat almost the entire time that the bits of text are coming up to tell you who's directing the film and stuff like that. But yeah, good start to the film, good ending. Some of the stuff in the middle can be a little bit plodding at times, given the fact that it's an hour and 50 minutes long and that a lot of the film is just this one guy in this village, occasionally touching up this painting, occasionally being freaked out somewhere else in the local village. But I think it's a good film. It's a solid watch. It's not perfect, but out of the two films I've reviewed so far in 2026, this one's the best. Yeah, it beats Firestarter 2. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give The House with the Laughing Windows. Here's the bag. Let's see what we've got in here today. So we've got 1, 2, 3.5 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. This was good. It's not a film that I'm going to end up buying. It won't end up in my top 100 horrors at any point, but I achieved my primary objective with this, which was to have a good movie for the evening. It was definitely that, and I would recommend that you check it out if you like these sorts of movies. Right, we'll leave it there for today. I will quickly point out that I'm on Blue Sky for social media. That is, as the Midnight Woodsman, the same name there as I am here. And other than that, I will say thank you for joining me. I'll be back again very soon. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.